2 of OTAs in the books, and with only 13 days left until the summer break, we're taking a closer look at the Prove It guys, the guys with a little extra chip on their shoulders for 2021. Welcome into Broncos Weekend, everybody. I'm Matt Boyer. Broncos legend Ray Crockett will be along momentarily, but as always, we start in studio with the Hall of Famer, Steve Atwater. Steve? Week 2 of OTAs is behind us. So a little bit more 7-on-7. What did you like that you witnessed this week?
Hey, the guys are flying around. Not everything is in on the defense. There are some mistakes still being made. Coach Fangio said that about some of the young safeties. But that's to be expected at this point. Still got a lot of learning to do. But, hey, I like the speed at which they're going about it.
We mentioned it at the top, Steve. Less than 2 weeks away until the summer break. So we're going to take a little extra look at some of the guys with a little extra motivation this offseason, a little something extra to prove. And we're going to begin with the second-year wideout, Jeudy.
This is my second year, and I feel like I learned a lot in my first year, so I know how to overcome whatever I had in my past year to make this year better. Again, this is my second year. You just know the plays, you know the tempo of the play, the timing of the play, so that really helps you on the time of your route running and know what to do in this route and what not to do, just because how familiar I am with the plays. So it really helped me a lot on becoming a better route runner.
Going into year 2, I've said it already, Jeudy is really good, really, really good. So I think it's just all mental at this point. He knows he could get open against anybody in this league. And now it's just at the point that he just has to put it on film and remind him who he is.
The biggest thing for me, the timing of plays, that's the biggest thing. You want to get a certain spot in a certain place, that exact timing. So knowing how to make the defender move where you want to be and get to that spot at that timing of the play, that was the biggest thing for real.
Steve, Vic Fangio said last year, the Raiders game, that 92-yard touchdown catch, a defining moment in Jerry Jeudy's career. How valuable is that momentum? Can you take a game from last season and roll it over into this offseason? Does that matter?
Well, you definitely can. I've been a big believer in you don't want to go into the offseason in a bad game, having a bad game. And he went into the offseason really strongly. So I think he does have some momentum from that. I know Coach Fangio said he doesn't believe in that momentum from year to year, but I do. I think that, to end on a positive note, he had a good offseason of working out, comes back with a good, clean slate, and feels like he can build from there. So, I saw the guy play in college. I think he's a huge competitor. So he's not going to let that. He's not going to let last year be what defines him.
Week 1 of OTA, Steve, I thought guys just kind of getting their footing. This week, it looked like from the day that we got to watch practice, Jerry Jeudy looked pretty good, looked locked in, looked very dialed in, focus-wise. Have you seen a difference in his demeanor or his play? I know it's just OTAs, but maybe a slight difference in the second-year player.
Well, I can't say just yet. Again, he looks great out there. Everybody looks great right now with no pads on, right? and running around freely with guys not really pressing them or tackling them. Once we get to training camp and a lot more physicality will be there, I think that's when we'll be able to determine, hey, has his mindset changed? Is he honed in? Is he focusing on what he needs to focus on? And really, that just means catching all the balls that's thrown to him.
What's his role, Steve? Now, we got Courtland Sutton back. We talked about Courtland last week. What's going to be his role next to Courtland, and how can he be most effective here in 2021?
Hey, man, I think Jerry Jeudy is a superstar. I think that with Courtland Sutton on the field, them two together, they're two superstars, and we just need to, offensive line, block, give whichever quarterback's in there enough time to throw the football, and those guys are going to make some serious plays. And, I forgot about Noah Fant and Albert O, if Albert O's ready to go at the beginning of the season. But, Jerry Jeudy, in my mind, he's a superstar. And I think a lot of people aren't expecting a lot out of him this year, but I'm expecting the world out of him.
Speaking of guys playing next to Jerry Jeudy, Tim Patrick was a guy that Jerry learned from on the fly last year, was the number 1 wideout for the Broncos in 2020. And despite that, Steve, despite being the top wideout for the Broncos last year, The proverbial chip on his shoulder is as big as it's ever been.
I love this game, so like I'm not out there to be average. I'm out there to be the best at my position. So if it's special teams, I want to be the best gunner or the best R5. If it's a receiver, I want to be the best receiver on the field. At the end of the day, I want people to fear me on the field. Like I don't want to be just another guy out there.
Throws end zone, touchdown, Tim Patrick.
To say I made it, you gotta do something special. I don't want to say I'm special because I feel like I still don't get the respect. I wish I could have got a first round tender, or I wish I could have got an extension. So I don't feel good. Like I don't talk to you guys enough, so obviously I need to do more. I'm not talked about on TV enough, so obviously I need to do more. There's so much things I need to do. I got to be more consistent. It's one good year, I got to stack them, because a lot of people have one good year, but they go quiet the next year. So my job is not to fall in that statistic.
Tim Patrick might not feel like he's getting enough TV time, but if he's watching, we're giving him TV time.
Come on, TP.
We're giving him TV time right now. Here's a guy, Steve, that's been constantly counted out, right? Last year, the Broncos drafted Jeudy, KJ Hamler, and Tim Patrick just turned around and said, that's fine. I'm just going to keep my head down, work, and he ends up as the Broncos' #1 wideout. What do you see his role being alongside Courtland Sutton now and Jeudy? How good can this wide receiver core be? Because that's a loaded room they got.
Yeah, and the deeper we are at each position, the better we're going to be, because, last year we had a slew of injuries. Hopefully, if we have injuries this year, we won't have nearly as many as we had last year. But I think we want to be deep at every position, and those guys work really well together. And I think that is, and I don't know if there'll be enough balls to go around all of them, but I think they're going to make big plays when they have the opportunity. And Tim Patrick, he'll be right there in the mix with them.
TP said he got a second-round tender this year.
Like a second.
Yeah, it feels like a second-round pick.
Yes.
But he said it's also hard not to think about the future. You've been there, Steve, as a guy who is thinking about his future in the league. How hard is it to block that stuff out?
You know what? I feel like when I was younger, when I was his age and maybe a little older than that, I could focus on those things. I don't do such a good job now focusing the way I did back then. But during my playing days, I was able to block that out pretty well. Some guys aren't. I'm hoping that he's one of those guys that can really, just put that stuff on the back burner, because that's something that you can't do anything about. The only thing you can control is your effort and your production on the field. But what happens with your contract and all that stuff, you can't do anything about it. So just go out and play ball. It takes a lot of pressure off of you.
If he goes out and plays ball like he did last year, Steve, there could be good things to come, hopefully, for this Broncos offense in 2021. We've got to take a quick break, but when we come back on Broncos Weekend, we're heading to the defensive side of the football. Somehow, some way, Vic Fangio said he is getting Bryce Callahan plenty of playing time this year, and we'll tell you why next. Welcome back to Broncos Weekend, everybody. Okay, Steve, we're going to shift focus now, go to the defense.
Yes.
The big guys up front might be a little harder for them to get good work in during OTAs on air, but the DBs, having been there yourself, what can the DBs accomplish during this period in those 7-on-7 periods? What can the defense as a whole gain during these OTA periods?
Well, again, we've heard Coach Fangio talk about, some of the guys are running around, they're learning the defense. That's the biggest thing, the biggest benefit of this area, of this part of camp, is the guys are able to learn the defenses, learn where they're supposed to be, learn where their teammates are going to be, get used to all of the different calls coming out quickly. And as you know, last year, guys, we were doing this via Zoom.
Yeah.
And it was extremely difficult for guys to, get a real understanding of the defense, because they couldn't see the guys doing it. They didn't get it in real time, guys yelling out those calls, making those adjustments quickly. So I think it's going to be a huge benefit that we have such a good turnout, and they're looking really, really good right now for it to be this early in the process.
We've been talking about how good this defense can be for weeks now, and a guy with a lot to prove in this very deep secondary because of his injury history is Bryce Callahan.
This season a little bit different because I didn't have to get surgery this past year, so I'm not coming off too much rehab. So this year I actually got to dive into my offseason a little bit earlier since I wasn't dealing with surgery. So my confidence is a lot higher. I know I'm tired of the injuries more than anybody else, man. It's something you can kind of control and you can't control. So it is what it is. But getting back to trying to play how I played last year. I mean, kind of just doing the same thing, diving into the playbook, being relentless in off season and trying to take good care of my body. So hopefully, that the injuries stay away. So I've been just trying to be more of a pro to keep the injuries down and stuff. I mean, the expectations are very high. I mean, you see the depth. I feel like we have all the guys, we have all the pieces to have the best defense. I mean, the secondary in the league. So, I mean, it's up to us to, execute the calls and just prove what everybody else is thinking.
Steve, what's his defense going to look like potentially with this deep secondary?
Man, that's a good question because somebody's going to have to come off the field. I'm not sure what position. Is it going to be a linebacker? Is it going to be a defensive lineman? Is it going to be a safety? These cornerbacks are going to play because I guarantee you Bryce Callahan, especially if he stays healthy, he's one of the top corners in the league when he's healthy. If he stays healthy, you can't keep him off the field. But the same thing applies to Pat Surtain. He's a young guy. He's the future at that cornerback position. And he's going to be on the field as well. Then we got two guys that we paid some good money for as free agents in Kyle Fuller and Ronald Darby. They all got to see the field. Mm-hmm. So I'm anxious to see what kind of trickery or what type of system that Coach Fangio and Ed Donatell draw up.
Steve, you said 25 sacks last week when we sat here for Von Miller and Bradley Chubb, okay? Now,
I'm saying 26 now.
You're saying 26? Yeah, all right, let's bump it up one, okay? Right, 26 combined sacks for Bradley Chubb and Von Miller in 2021. If that's the case, what can this secondary accomplish if Callahan, Fuller, and Darby stay healthy?
I would say 18 to 20 picks.
18 to 20 picks, okay.
18 to 20 picks because when you got the big dogs on the end rushing the quarterbacks, they're going to hurry some passes. The receivers are going to break the routes off sometimes. And guess what? That means money for the defensive back. So if we stay healthy on the edge, our cornerbacks are going to feast.
Hey, that secondary, Steve, was a great area of focus all offseason, both in free agency and the draft. We just touched on it. But the Broncos' defensive line, Steve, outside of Shelby Harris, largely untouched. And a big reason for that is the high expectations this season for Dre'Mont Jones.
Nothing really changes on my part. It's more of me able to be more of a leader now. I think 10 sacks is very attainable. Guys like Chris Jones and Grady Jarrett and Cameron Haywood and Aaron Donald made it cool to be an inside guy and get 10 sacks. It's very attainable. I don't expect anything less from myself. I think that's a goal of mine I can reach. I'm gonna try to reach it. It's good having a head coach that pays attention to lots of defense. Makes it better than you, but with his schemes, it really opens things up. It allows us to get the opportunities. He's really big on stunts and finding up the matchups to be able to win. But overall, I think Coach has done a great job of molding us into his defense and making us good.
Dre'Mont Jones says 10 sacks is achievable for him in 2021. That's a very high bar. What are the biggest areas of growth that you've seen from him in his career as a Bronco?
Well, one, he's gotten stronger each and every offseason. I know when he came out of Ohio State, he was already a guy who moved really well. He was strong at the point of attack. But I would like to see him take that next level and put a little bit more focus on getting to the quarterback in addition to being solid in the run. I remember some games last year, they double teamed. We had a little bit of problems dealing with that. So hopefully he's gotten stronger and he can handle that a little bit better. But, hey, 320-pound guys leaning on you, I don't know many guys that can get around that, though.
We looked at the defensive line, Steve, and as we mentioned, it's largely untouched. Mike Purcell's coming off an injury. You've got Shelby Harris back in the fold, Dre'Mont Jones, McTelvin Agim. How much will they lean on Dre'Mont Jones in this offseason? What do you see from that defensive line this year? Yeah,
we do have some younger guys that they'll be leaning on Dre'Mont Jones, but they also have Shelby Harris. They got Mike Purcell to lean on as well. So I understand that feeling like, hey, I'm a vet now. And, we got younger guys kind of looking up to me. It does put a little bit of pressure on you, though, to make sure that you're doing things the right way and setting the right example for them.
Steve, we got to take a break, but when we come back on Broncos Weekend, your guy,
Belly.
Ray Crockett, joining Atwater's A-Team to talk about this young Broncos secondary and what he likes about the first-round pick, Pat Surtain II. Don't go anywhere. There have been some great defensive backs to walk these halls at UC Health Training Center in history, but where could the Broncos 2021 group end up if all goes according to plan? Well, to answer that question, this week on Atwater's A-Team, Broncos great Ray Crockett is joining Steve to talk about how this year's Broncos secondary could lead the team back to winning ways.
Hey, I want to jump into these Denver Broncos here. I feel this Denver Broncos defense has the talent to be a top 5 defense this year.
I do. If you look at if you look at all the decisions that they made in this offseason, I do feel that Denver can be a top 5 defense. It's going to be up to the linebackers. That's going to be the key. They have the secondary now that can really play, especially with drafting Pat Surtain. They can do a number of different things in the back end. And the front end, we know they're going to get to the quarterback with Chubbs, with a healthy Von Miller. If Von can come back 95, 80, 90%, he don't even have to be 100% Von, because 100% Von was just a beast. Yeah, but if he's 85 to 90%, he's still going to be that dude. And they got a front. I think, that they got enough guys that they can intertwine those guys. They can switch them in and out, and they can be very productive. We got linebackers who can fill gaps. But we all know with Kansas City, with the Raiders, these offenses, they're going to put you in space. So the linebackers have to really hold their own in space. If they can do that, we can be a top 5 defense.
All right, now how big of an impact can Patrick Surtain II make as a rookie? You know, I mean, how can he do? What can he do to earn his teammates' respect as a rookie, first round?
Well, here's the thing, Steve. Let me tell you. This is what I thought about Pat Surtain. I said, look, first and foremost, he's a physical specimen. I mean, he's a beast. I mean, point blank. I didn't know when I saw him at one of the 7-on-7 tournaments, and I know his dad well. Me and his dad hung out back in the day. Both of us played corner at the same time in the league, so I already knew he has the mentality to be a great player. That is key. Is when you want to bring in a rookie corner, you want to know if can he handle the defense? Can he handle all the defensive pressures that we're gonna have? Can he handle the different coverage schemes? Can he handle, being a dual guy where there's zone on one side, man on one side? And if he had the motion into that zone, does he know what to do? He has that. He's smart enough to handle that. But here's the thing I do if I'm Fangio when we draft Pat Surtain. Before this camp or whatever, because he just signed his deal, I give him 3 guarantees. One guarantee, you got to give him his paper. Give him that guarantee signing bonus. And along with that, I sit down a folder of Kelsey, and I sit down a folder of Waller. I say, I guarantee you this, you're going to cover those 2 guys. So as a rookie, because here's the thing, being able to move him inside, he's 6'2", he's 200 plus, he has the speed and quickness of covering wide receivers on the outside. He can match up with those tight ends. And I guarantee you, and he can get his hands on him and be physical. I guarantee you that Ed Donatel, you and I, we know Ed Donatel very well. Think about this, Steve. Now, I wasn't the size of Pat Surtain as far as 6'2" and all that, but I was a very physical corner. Yeah. Guess who I covered? Tony Gonzalez. I moved inside and covered Tony Gonzalez because I was quick enough and I was physical enough to give him problems. Surtain is that guy. That is a guy that I think you go from being a nickel defense to a dime defense.
All right, now let's take a quick look at the other side of the ball. Drew Lock, Teddy Bridgewater. What do you like about their games, and how do you see this battle playing out in training camp? It's going to be a good one.
What we have, Drew Lock and with Bridgewater. I love Bridgewater's game. I do. I think he's a very professional quarterback, and I think that he's a very capable quarterback. But what I do see is how he throws the ball. He's not a bullet thrower. I say Drew Lock is a better thrower of the football, as far as power and accuracy and things of that nature. But what I like about Bridgewater,
you say Drew Lock is more accurate than Teddy Bridgewater?
I think he's more accurate with power, not more accurate just hitting the receiver. I'm saying with power, meaning he can be late on a throw and still get it there. Where Bridgewater is more of an anticipator. His ball don't have as much zip, so he really has to anticipate where you're going to be and puts that ball there. So his accuracy comes from anticipation, whereas Drew Lock's accuracy comes from power. Teddy has to be anticipated and has to be early and correct on his throws, or he won't make it. Where Drew can be late and do some, off-target or off-schedule stuff that I think Teddy can't do, if that makes sense. As a defender, I'm more frightened of the guys who can do the off-schedule stuff. You know me, Steve. I'm a very astute studier. So when you're a studier of the game, it's a lot easier for me to play an on-schedule quarterback. Mm-hmm. It's a lot harder to play those off-schedule quarterbacks because there are certain plays that I've studied and I know they're coming, and all of a sudden, boom, it's off schedule, and they may do something different where I may jump the slant, and the slant ends up being an out. You know what I'm saying? Whereas with Teddy, a slant is going to be a slant. If they go 3 to the left, motion right, and they normally run double slant, I'm jumping the double slant. Right. So with that being said, then I would probably fear Lock a little more than I would Teddy.
You the man, Croc.
Appreciate you, my man. Hall of Fame, brother. Hall of Fame. I'll see you soon.
Yeah, looking forward to seeing you, man. Give everybody
all right,
my best, and we'll talk soon, Croc.
No doubt. Appreciate you.
Our thanks to Ray Crockett for taking some time with us this week. That'll do it for us today on Broncos Weekend. For the Hall of Famer Steve Atwater, I'm Matt Boyer. So long, Broncos country. We will see you next week.